Greetings, peace, assalamu alaikum, and what's up? Won't leave nobody out. My presentation, as you can see, is entitled, I don't know if they pulled up, it's called Why Not Take All of Me? Conceding Kemet in African American History Textbooks. I'm going to try to get off that I-95 and come on back to, I don't know, I-20, I guess, down in the South. I come from the South where they still fight the Civil War, so I got to take it back to the South. But let me say before I get started, it's always good for me to come and be out. I saw Dr. Anta yesterday. I said I'll come to fellowship and partake of, the atmosphere, the celebration, and just the love, but also the intellectual engagement. Right? So I come from an all-black environment because he's at the HBCU. So sometimes in an all-black environment, we get comfortable in thinking that everything that we say is correct. And what I try to teach my students is that wherever you speak, assume the audience is hostile to you. So when you come, whether you're green, black, red, yellow, white, just come correct. We were taught from the very beginning when I was Dr. Asante's TA. In fact, one of the reasons why I'm doing these textbooks is because my first assignment with Dr. Asante was to do a timeline for his textbook. And you can check in the credits. It says timeline, Troy Allen. That was my first. Me and Dr. to ride to New Jersey on the weekend and go down to People's Publishing to check over the proofs. Way back in the day. I'm telling my age. But my age is also a reflection of the title, Why Not Take All of Me? Why not take all of me? Yeah, because it was they didn't really want all the funk. Right? They just wanted some of it. A lot of that is when you think about, disco was coming in, crossovers were coming in, the whole A&R thing was shifted, and they were really trying to, push black music out, right? And come in with this new form of music, and one of the mansions of the funk was really the last thing remaining, coming out of James Brown, and then one of the songs in the end, Bootsy keeps saying over and over again, why not take all of me? Right? And so I put that in my position as when I look at Africa, right? Why do African American history textbooks cut off North Africa, ancient Egypt, that whole civilization, and just start with West Africa? So I'm asking a rhetorical question to us, right, and to them, or why not take all of it? Why not start with the beginning instead of giving me a truncated version? Go to the next, please, because I think this was going to try to illustrate my point. The idea for this work came from, I was reading these 4 texts at the same time. There's a book by Jonathan Zimmerman. He's at Harvard. The full title of the text is Culture Wars in the Public School. Right? And really that is a battle about textbooks. If you read the book, it's a battle about how schools and school boards fight to keep certain textbooks out. And it really starts from the very beginning. Because when you read that particular text, there's really like 3 things going on. One, since I said I come from the South, the whole initial school board, school text comes out of Reconstruction, right? And we have so much history that sometimes we even bypass our own history. I mean, if you really look at Reconstruction in a way that should be looked at currently, you can see that they exported Reconstruction to Iraq. Right? This is in a text by Edmund Ayers called, What Caused the Civil War. There's a chapter there called Exported Reconstruction. And he said the first experiment with Reconstruction was what they tried to do to the South. And every country they've been in since, they tried to use the model of Reconstruction, what they did in the South, to export it around the world, but they don't use our model because it failed in the South. Right? But when you look at he cites the criteria. 1, they used military to depose a non-democratic regime. They did it in the South. They brought in schools, roads, they tried to rebuild, they brought in philanthropists, they tried to set, they had the insurgency, the Confederates, the Klan, they had to deal with them, they tried to bring them back into the government, and they were still making resources at the same time. right? So then they had a population that was outside trying to put them in. And so when they left the South, Philippines, Cuba, Central America, Panama, Haiti, the model they used was their own model of the South. And they're still using that model today. But look how we responded to the Reconstruction. And that's one of our grandest times. And if you look at what we did with our taste of freedom, to build the schools, to build the institutions, to build the churches, that's our model of Reconstruction always to go back to. But it was defeated militarily, right? So the whole first discussion is, in the South, when they rebuilt the South did not want textbooks in there that said that the war was about slavery, right? They had the Daughters of Confederacy, they had the veterans of the Confederate War. They all got on school boards and said there will be no textbook that comes to the South that says the Civil War is about slavery. It's not going to happen. They wrote their own textbooks so they could be on the right side of history, right? I don't know if y'all watch The Simpsons, but there's an episode of The Simpsons when Apu, right, the racial Indian character they have, he's applying for citizenship, and he has to take the test. So he comes to the oral exam, and they ask him one question: what caused the Civil War? And so Apu is running it down. Well, 1852, just laid back in 1852, Harris, Allentown Cabin, 1854, Kent, Nebraska. And the guy just looks at him and says, just say slavery. So they want to reduce it, right? They don't want you to see the complication of it, but the South could not let the war be about slavery, because then that means their hands were responsible as like human beings. They don't want to teach that to their children. And so the whole first cultural wars for battles of textbooks was not to let any books come from the North that had that implication in it. They didn't even call it the Civil War. They called it the War of Northern Aggression, the war between the states. I mean, they went on and on. And the reason why this came to my attention was because I teach at Southern and at LSU, and every football season they bring out the Confederate flag. And then they discussed on the radio that slavery, the Civil War was really not about slavery. And they go into all these discussions that were in those textbooks. And so I really, encountering students like that, saying, man, is that really, what you think, or that's how you've been taught? And if you know anything about Louisiana, they have the most private schools in the other state. So a lot of students that come to university who've never been in contact with other black students, other black educators, and it's for the first time they have an opposing view of what the war was about. So I couldn't blame them, because this is part of education. But I had to re-educate them, right? Because really, I didn't leave I-95. I'm still in I-95 because the point is that these brothers talk about 17th, 18th, 19th century, and that's where Egyptology starts at, right? My point is, you can live in a world where you know the earth is round, and you still believe the world or the earth is flat. Right. One of the examples I always ask students, I say, well, tell me what direction is heaven. What direction is it? It's up, right?
No.
It can be up if the world is round.
No.
It can only be up if the world is flat. Yeah. Because that's from the 15th century, where you got the earth, the trees, the sky, and then Jesus is up there above, once looking down. Right? I did fly up here, not by myself, but on a plane. And as soon as I got above the clouds, I looked for Jesus. And he wasn't there. But my point is, you can have a conception of the world with all this information around you and not even know the world is round. That's why the man wrote a book called The World is Flat. But my point is, education is there, but if you're not engaged in it, right? So when you encounter people outside this room, they live like in a flat earth world. They don't understand the world is round, right? Even though we know it is, and not only in physicality, but also what goes around comes around, right? And so this first argument that they're dealing with in the book led me to think about, because the second section is on black history, right? About not letting black history into the South, into the textbooks. And this came about at the same time when the old, well, I wouldn't say the oldest, but I say from slavery to freedom, it was the 6-year anniversary of slavery to freedom. Right? Slavery to freedom was published in 47. I can't read. But slavery to freedom was published in 1947. And in 2007, it was the 6-year anniversary of slavery to freedom. And they had big celebrations about from slavery to freedom, 60 years, because it was the first African American history textbook that got through the Board of Education in most places, starting in California, and then made its way across, right? And if you go get, I mean, we've had African American textbooks since the 1800s. 1881, J.C. Pennington, we come back down through Washington Williams. I mean, we have textbooks already, right? This is the first textbook. PhD trained, he gets his textbook in, right? Now, 7 editions. If you go get the first 6, I'll say first 4, up to 74, he has a whole chapter on Egypt and West Africa. It's in it. It's in the text. That's why what Karina said, we knew about Egypt in the 60s, because it was in the text. I mean, he's talking about Nefertiti. He go all the way down the round. And in 1974, a Harvard scholar, who's not a historian, criticized him in a journal, I think, Dissent, saying that why does John Hope Franklin have this thing about Egypt in his textbook when he knows there's no connection between West Africa and ancient Egypt and African Americans and ancient Egypt. And then it disappears from his text. That sociologist was Orlando Patterson. But maybe y'all heard of him. But it disappears from the text. Right? This is before he gets the co-editor with him. He drops it out because people are complaining. And they're complaining because Africa becomes free. Because the thing about it is, while African Americans were reading this textbook under segregation, it wasn't a threat to dominant society. By 74, we showed up in white schools asking the question, hold up. How you start Mesopotamia? You know, Egypt is older. How you start Mesopotamia? You know, this is an African civilization. You leaving us out. And so as we start to challenge professors, it becomes uncomfortable. And what do they say? It's those textbooks they're reading. They're getting the wrong information. So the first thing they do when they go to war, they go for the textbook.